Hey everybody, I am John Barker, and in this episode of Here to Record Show and Tell, I want to go head to head with the ATEM Television Studio HD and the Roland V-1HD. And I want to compare the two and see why you might want to choose one over the other. And before we jump in, I just want to let you know I've launched a Patreon campaign, and if you want to support the channel, just find the link in the description below. So let's give a quick intro about these two products. The Blackmagic ATEM Television Studio HD is an 8-input 4 HDMI and 4 SDI video switcher, which can sit on your desk or be mounted in a rack case or some sort of rack setup. Whereas the Roland V-1HD is a 4-input video switcher, and it's designed really to sit on a desk and be operated like that. On a quick side note, the V-1HD and the V-1SDI will be kind of interchangeably mentioned during this video. I think that they're similar enough that that's pretty valid. Let's kick off by talking about form factor. There's no real winner or loser when it comes to form factor. It just depends on your setup. If you're okay sitting on the desk and you want to operate it that way, then the Roland's probably the best way to go. But if you're going for more of a rack case setup with things mounted nicely, then the ATEM's that way. Buttons and control. I think the V-1HD has the winning edge in this category. When I first saw the ATEM announced, I was really excited about the buttons on the front and being able to control the device that way. But then whenever you get it, you find that there's no real ergonomical way to press the buttons when it's in a rack case or on a table. You find that your hand is kind of over the top of it or weirdly underneath it. So that's why the Roland sitting on a desk in terms of control is just going to be the winner. I found when I got my ATEM, really the first thing I wanted to do was grab some sort of control surface, either a MIDI device or the Stream Deck. So when you just sit down at the Roland and press the buttons, rest your hands nice and firmly on the table, it just makes sense. Inputs and outputs. When we're talking about pure inputs and outputs, the ATEM is clearly the winner. With 4 HDMI and 4 SDI inputs, it's more than enough for somebody like me. I think I've only used 6 at a maximum. Having all those extra HDMI or SDI connections really means you can scale up a little or really take on anything that might come your way. The V-1HD of course locks you into 4 HDMI inputs. Though I do think if you work full time in, let's say, a venue and you want to use the V-1HD to drive a projection system, then this is not really a huge problem for you. But if you're using it for cameras and presenter's laptop and all sorts of weird little video playback and things like that, then the ATEM really is the winner here. Resolution and frame rates. On the Television Studio HD, you do need to make sure that all your inputs match in terms of frame rate and resolution. It's something that trips up a lot of beginners as well. Whereas on the V-1HD, you just need to set your output standard and you can plug in cameras or all sorts of gear, and it kind of just figures things out for you and scales it accordingly. So if you're running with consumer or maybe prosumer gear, cameras and no converters and things like that, then the V-1HD or the V-1SDI will really cover your back a lot better than the ATEM. Picture-in-picture and effects. Both devices will give you some form of picture-in-picture if you really need it. Though I have found that in the ATEM, if you want to tweak the picture-in-picture settings, it's a real pain to do in the software control. A lot of clicking and a lot of slowly moving things around. It's just not an intuitive experience. Whereas adjustments of picture-in-picture and things on the Roland just makes more sense because you do have buttons and knobs to make these things work a lot faster and a lot smoother. Personally, I do avoid picture-in-picture on most gigs, but if it's something that you do need or you do really want, then the Roland might actually make more sense for you. Community. Just stepping away from the devices themselves for a minute, one of the main deciding factors for me was the community and the support around the device. That's what I found in the ATEM community, is that there's forum posts, there's Facebook groups, there's all sorts of channels. I couldn't really find the same for the Roland community. Maybe I wasn't looking hard enough, but the ATEM community really stood out as something really powerful for me. What they both don't have. It's important to note what they don't have. Streaming or recording capabilities. So both of those things are something you're going to have to invest in the future. Price. I'm just throwing up some current prices of the ATEM and the V-1HD as a sort of comparison point. Wherever you're buying from or whatever time you watch this video, it might change a little, but this is just a reference for you. At the time of recording, the price difference is not huge, but there is one there. If you can avoid making the choice based on price, then that will probably be for the best. Overall, if you have watched other videos that I've made, you will know that I've went for the ATEM Television Studio HD as my main video switcher. And that was mainly because of community support, because of the rack mountability of it, and because of the integration with other things like the Stream Deck, and finally because of all those inputs and outputs. I have recommended the V-1HD and SDI to people working in venues and somewhere with a fixed location, because I really do think it works well for those kind of things. Throwing up an image on the screen, switching between between multiple laptops, I really think it's a strong piece of gear for that. And I also think the V-1HD makes sense for volunteers or inexperienced people, because when you sit down at it, it just makes sense what you have to do. Now I would love to know in the comments below which one of these two you have, or if you've chosen between the two, what your reasons were for choosing that one. And finally, thanks for watching this video. I do hope you found it useful, and if there's anything you think I left out in terms of a comparison point, then do let people know in the description, because no doubt people are between these two devices and they're not sure which one to go for, and I think your thoughts will help as well.